On Halloween night in 1974, in Deer Park, Texas, the streets were alive with excited children going from door to door asking, "Trick or treat." Ronald Clark O'Bryan was out walking the streets with his two children, Timothy and Elizabeth. He was also accompanied by his next door neighbour and his two children. The children ran up to a house and proceeded to knock, buckets at the ready to collect whatever candy was given to them. But after a few attempts at knocking, it became obvious no one was home. So the neighbour and all the four children rushed off to the next house, leaving O'Bryan behind, where he lingered for a while. Eventually he caught up with the group and revealed 5 pixie sticks that had apparently been handed to him by the previous house, who answered the door just as they left. He gave one each to his children and the neighbour's children, and later gave the 5th candy to a young boy who he recognised from church. Unknown to his neighbour and children, that O'Bryan had sabotaged the candy and laced it all with potassium cyanide. Later that night in the O'Bryan house, Timothy asked if he could eat some of his candy. He picked up the pixie sticks and proceeded to open the wrapper, but was struggling. His father helped him. He opened the packet of candy and handed it back to his son, and stood back and watched Timothy pour the powdery candy down his throat and seal his fate. Timothy complained about the bitter taste, so his father gave him a drink to wash it down. It wasn't long before Timothy started to complain of stomach pains. He rushed to the bathroom where he vomited and then started to convulse. The 8-year-old then went limp in his father's arms and died in the ambulance on the way to hospital. The autopsy found the laced candy in the little boy's system. There was enough to kill 2 grown adults. The authorities quickly rounded up all of the candy in the area, especially looking for any pixie sticks. Luckily, Elizabeth and the neighbour's children had not eaten the candy, and it was recovered from them. The parents of the 5th child, the boy from church, had been found fast asleep in his bed with the pixie sticks in his hand, unopened. Luckily, he had been unable to open the candy and had fallen asleep whilst trying to unwrap it. At this time, O'Bryan was not a suspect, but it was just a matter of time before police grew suspicious. Police started to show suspicion after finding out O'Bryan didn't visit that many houses on Halloween night, and the ones he did visit didn't seem to be handing out any pixie sticks. O'Bryan was also found to have given false information to the police. He stated that the house they knocked on, the house with no answer, eventually opened the door after his neighbours and the children left for the next house. He told police the gentleman behind the door handed him 5 pixie sticks and then shut the door. The house belonged to a Mr. Courtney Melvin, who worked as an air traffic controller, and on Halloween night he was at work, only arriving home around 11 PM. He also had over 200 witnesses to confirm this, giving him the all clear and ruling him out as a suspect. Becoming more and more suspicious of O'Bryan, the police did a bit more digging into his personal finances and discovered he was over $100,000 in debt. They also discovered that he had taken out life insurance on his 2 children and had increased the payout a few times leading up to Halloween. It was also discovered that the day after his 8-year-old's death, he had rang up the insurance company to make a claim on his deceased son. As if this wasn't enough, the police also discovered that O'Bryan had tried to purchase some cyanide from a local chemical factory. But in the end he didn't bother because the factory only sold in large quantities. To this day it is not known where exactly he purchased the cyanide from. The police joined the dots, and on November the 5th, 1974 they arrested O'Bryan, who pleaded not guilty. The evidence continued to mount up. Many people testified, including workers from the chemical factory and O'Bryan's work colleagues, who claimed for almost a year he had obsessed over cyanide, researching it endlessly and often discussing its effects on a person and how much it would take of the substance to kill someone. O'Brien's stepsister also testified, stating that O'Brien talked about claiming the money from his son's insurance and boasting about buying things and going away on a vacation. The jury found him guilty and sentenced him to death on the 23rd of June 1975. O'Brien's wife later filed for divorce and remarried. Her new husband adopted Elizabeth, and they all started a new life together under a new name. O'Brien's time in prison was not pleasant. The prisoners did not like child killers, and they made it known. After many delays, O'Brien's execution finally went through on March the 31st, 1984 by lethal injection. Outside there was a crowd of over 300 people, and once the news broke out, they all cheered and threw candy at anti-death penalty demonstrators whilst shouting, "Trick or treat," over and over again. We all love a good spooky story at Halloween, but sometimes the most sickening and saddening are the true ones. Take care. I'll see you next time.